The day my ex-girlfriend's mother got down on one knee and proposed to me. Every person in the restaurant stopped eating. Someone dropped a fork. A waiter froze in the middle of pouring coffee. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might pass out. For a few long seconds, I couldn't even breathe. Not because I didn't love her. Because I did. And I never believed life could be this strange. Or this beautiful. If someone had told me 3 years earlier that I'd fall in love with the mother of the woman who broke my heart, I would have laughed in their face. Love wasn't supposed to work that way. Neither was healing. 3 years before that unforgettable afternoon, I had been engaged to Melissa. We had dated for 4 years. I honestly believed we'd spend the rest of our lives together. We had picked out a wedding venue. Talked about children. Argued over paint colors for a house we hadn't even bought. Then one Tuesday evening she came home, sat across from me, and quietly admitted she had fallen in love with someone else from work. She cried. I didn't. At least not until she left. Watching someone carry your future out the front door is a pain no one ever truly forgets. I moved into a small apartment across town. I buried myself in work as a physical therapist. I smiled for patients. I encouraged people learning to walk again after surgeries. Then I went home every night to silence. The only person who continued checking on me was Melissa's mother, Diane. At first it felt awkward. She would text every few weeks. Just making sure you're eating. How's work? You don't have to answer if you'd rather not. She never defended her daughter's decision. She never criticized it either. She simply treated me like someone whose heart mattered. That kindness meant more than she probably realized. Months passed. Then one afternoon she called. I'm volunteering at the community food pantry. Half the volunteers canceled. Any chance you could help? I almost said no. Instead I showed up. For 6 hours we packed grocery boxes for families who had lost jobs. She joked with children. Remembered everyone's names. Made elderly visitors laugh while carrying their bags to their cars. Watching her, I understood why so many people adored her. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She simply cared. After that day we became friends. Real friends. Sometimes we'd volunteer together. Sometimes we'd grab coffee afterward. We talked about books. Music. Life. Loss. She told me about raising Melissa alone after her husband died when Melissa was only 6. She had worked 2 jobs for years. Skipped vacations. Wore the same winter coat for nearly a decade. So her daughter could attend dance lessons. She never complained. She simply kept moving. I admired her strength. The more time we spent together, the more I realized she had spent most of her life putting everyone else first. One evening I asked, when was the last time someone took care of you? She laughed. I honestly can't remember. That answer stayed with me. Little by little, our friendship became something neither of us expected. I found myself looking forward to her messages. She admitted she smiled every time my name appeared on her phone. It terrified us both. She was 14 years older than me. She was my ex's mother. There wasn't exactly a guidebook for that situation. The first person we told was Melissa. She stared at us in complete disbelief. I thought this was some kind of joke. It isn't, Diane answered softly. Melissa looked at me. So, you're dating my mom? I didn't plan this. No kidding. She left without another word. For weeks she refused to answer either of our calls. Diane blamed herself. I've lost my daughter. No, I told her. She's hurt. There's a difference. Months later Melissa finally agreed to meet us. I've been angry, she admitted. But not because you betrayed me. She looked directly at me. I gave up the right to be jealous the day I ended our relationship. Then she turned toward her mother. I've just never seen you choose yourself before. Diane's eyes filled with tears. I didn't think I deserved to. Melissa reached across the table and squeezed her hand. You do. That single sentence healed wounds none of us knew how to repair. Life slowly settled into something peaceful. We kept volunteering. We hosted neighborhood dinners. We helped rebuild homes after a tornado struck a nearby town. One winter we organized a coat drive that collected over 2,000 jackets for families in need. Doing good together made our relationship stronger than expensive vacations or fancy gifts ever could. Love grew through ordinary kindness. One afternoon we visited an elderly man named Frank, one of our former food pantry clients. He had no family left. His heating system had failed during a snowstorm. Within 24 hours, dozens of volunteers showed up. Someone donated a furnace. Electricians installed it for free. Teenagers shoveled snow. Neighbors cooked meals. Frank cried as he watched strangers save his home. I spent my whole life thinking people only looked out for themselves. He whispered. You proved me wrong. Driving home, Diane quietly wiped away tears. The world still has hope. It always did, I said. Sometimes it just needs people willing to show it. A year later I planned to propose. I had already bought the ring. Hidden it inside my desk. Reserved a cabin overlooking a lake. Everything was ready. Or so I thought. A week before our trip, Diane invited me to lunch. She seemed unusually nervous. She barely touched her food. Then she suddenly stood up. I need 1 minute. Before I could ask why, she walked around the table. Reached into her purse. Pulled out a small velvet box. And knelt. The entire restaurant went silent. She smiled through tears. Michael. I couldn't move. I spent most of my life waiting for happiness to find everyone else first. People nearby watched in complete silence. You taught me that love isn't something we earn by sacrificing ourselves forever. Her voice trembled. You taught me that kindness can become friendship can become healing, and healing can become love. She opened the ring box. I don't want to waste another day wondering if I'm allowed to be happy. She laughed nervously. So I'm asking first. Her eyes met mine. Will you marry me? I started crying before I even realized it. The restaurant disappeared. The noise disappeared. Everything disappeared except the woman who had quietly rebuilt my broken heart one gentle act at a time. I helped her stand. Reached into my jacket. Pulled out the engagement ring I had been carrying for a week. Her eyes grew wide. I was going to ask you at the lake. She burst into laughter through happy tears. So. I slipped the ring onto her finger. My answer is yes. The restaurant exploded into applause. Complete strangers stood to cheer. Our waitress cried harder than either of us. When we finally walked outside, Diane leaned against me. I ruined your proposal. I smiled. No. You made it unforgettable. 6 months later, Melissa walked her mother down the aisle. Halfway there, she hugged Diane so tightly neither of them could let go. There wasn't a dry eye among the guests. During the reception, Melissa raised her glass. When my engagement ended years ago, she said. Smiling at us, I thought our family had fallen apart. She looked toward me. I never imagined it was actually becoming something even stronger. Everyone applauded. Looking around the room, I saw former patients, volunteers, neighbors, children we'd helped, and people who had once been strangers brought together by simple acts of compassion. Our story had started with heartbreak. It survived judgment. It grew through service. And it flourished because one woman chose kindness when bitterness would have been easier. Love doesn't always arrive wrapped in the future you imagined. Sometimes it walks into your life, wearing the face of someone who simply refuses to stop caring. And sometimes, when you least expect it, the person brave enough to ask for forever changes your world long before you ever get the chance to ask them.